What's going on, guys? This is Jacob with Bulldog Analytics, and today I want to walk through a solution for a problem that I used to face a lot, but I don't anymore because I have a solution. And that is, what happens when the download option on the service for your report and the associated model is grayed out? Now, this can happen for a number of reasons, some of which being maybe you created the file from the get-go on the service itself. There wasn't ever a desktop component to it. Maybe you perform some XMLA write operations via an external tool, and that kind of nullifies that download option. Or maybe you established some custom partitions using incremental refresh configuration. All of those would cause the file to no longer be downloadable from the service. Now, I'm going to present a solution that makes it where we can download the file from the service and bring it into desktop, turn it into a pbix, and carry on as usual. One caveat is that last thing I mentioned, custom partitions with an incremental refresh configuration, that does not work. I've tried that before with files that have partitions established within them, and I get an error whenever I use this solution. So it's not a solution in a sense for that, but any other XMLA write operations that I've performed, this has worked every time. Now, I won't say it works for everything. There might be limitations, and we can cross that bridge when we get there, but I think this will work 9 times out of 10 for what you need. So this is a pretty quick and easy solution. I think everyone should have it in their Power BI tool belt. Let's go ahead and switch over to my computer and we can walk through how to do it. All right, guys, as you can see on my screen, I've got a blank Power BI file I just opened. We're gonna kind of run through this pretty quickly. So all I need to do for this is click File and save this to a location. So I'm gonna click Save As. And then here in this Documents folder, I have this subfolder I've created. It's called test.bim2.pbix. Now, that'll make more sense here in a second. Really, that is a little bit misleading, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to title the file name blank, and then I'm going to change the type to pbip, which is a Power BI project file. Go ahead and click Save. Now, if we come in and open up that file, as you can see, it's produced not only that blank file like we're typically used to seeing with PBIXs, but also these other elements of the file. And so without getting too much into it, Power BI project files basically give you access to that front end element, but then it gives you kind of all the underlying elements of your file as well. So the report code, the semantic model code, and just a bunch of other stuff. Now, this has a lot of crossover with Git integration. I'm not going to get into that today, but basically, what we want to do is we want to replace the underlying elements that drive what outputs in this blank file. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to come into the semantic model piece and we're going to update this model.bim file. Okay. So how are we going to access that model.bim file? Well, we're going to use Tabular Editor, which is a mainstream external tool. If you don't have it, go download Tabular Editor 2 for free. And I'm going to pull it up now. All right, so here I've got Tabular Editor. I selected this option up in the top to connect to a model or to a tabular server, and here I've loaded a connection link which is copied from the workspace settings in Power BI service under license information. I believe it's called connection link, and I pasted that here. So I've got a little test workspace that I've created, and I'm going to click OK. I've got it integrated with my Windows login information. And you'll see here that it pulls up all of the components within that workspace, all the files and models. So I'm going to go ahead and select this BDA sample sales model and click OK. All right, now I am connected to the model itself, and even if you break out tables, you'll see that the schema is in there. So now all I need to do is I need to click File and Save As. And as you can see, I've already navigated within that test.bim to .pbix. I navigated to the semantic model subfolder, and all we're going to do is override this model.bim file. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Do you want to replace? Yes, I do. And now if we go back to that file, I'll click in here. This model.bim file has now been overridden. If I come back here and open my blank file, you'll see it open, and now you'll see that there's actually data loaded into the data bar. There is some incomplete information, so I'm going to click Refresh now, let that run for a second. And beautifully, there's no errors, and you can see that all of our data is there. And if I go into the model view, you'll see this is not some direct query or live connection. This is actually imported information with my model as I formatted it originally before I created the XMLA write operations to make it where I can't download the file. So the one issue is, if we look at my report itself on the service, there's actually a visual element to it. So I've got the underlying model, but what about the front end visuals? Because as you can see here, we only updated that model.bim file, but we didn't load in any of the visuals itself. Well, let's walk through how to do that. If I jump back over to the service and we click File, click Download this file, that pbix option is grayed out, and as you can see there, it's because we modified it with an XMLA endpoint. However, we can download the live connection version, which basically is like the thin report that contains the visuals but doesn't contain the imported local model. So I've already downloaded that here, and if I open that up, you'll see it contains the visuals like we need, but if you look at the model, it's connected with a live connection back to the data source. So the simple way to do this, assuming that your visuals are pretty straightforward and there's not a ton to update, is just simply doing Control-A, copying all your visuals, opening up the new blank file that we've been updating, the project file, and then just Control-V, pasting it in there. Because the underlying data itself is the same, even though it's imported in this model, now you've got all your visuals populating. And if you've got a couple pages, you can just go through and update that. If you've got more than just a couple pages and doing that copy paste would take a while, then you could take that thin report, save it as a project file, a PBIP file, and then take some elements out of the report subfolder and load it into the project file that's populating this. So the way we would do that, just real quick, is I've got my thin report downloaded here. If I file save this as a PBIP file, I'll put it as a subfolder in here, so I'll just call it thin report. None of the way that I'm titling any of this is really a best practice, but let's go ahead and click in there, drop this down. I will call this thinreport.pbip, click save. Now if I open up my folder, my documents folder here, I'm going to open up that thin report subfolder and then go into the report subfolder that's created within that. Remember, this is a thin report, it's connected live, so there's no semantic model subfolder, just the report. I'm going to come in here, I'm actually going to take this JSON file called report, and I'm going to copy it, come back into the original elements that we created, go into report. I'm going to paste it right here. I'm going to replace it. And now let's go ahead and I'll close out the blank. And now I'm going to reopen the blank folder, or I'm going to reopen the blank file. And when I do so, now you will see that all three tabs have now been created. A lot of them already had errors in my original report, but you'll see that all three tabs were created with the naming convention and everything matching. So that's how you would do it if you needed to update visuals that are a little bit more involved. So anyways, if you got any questions, please leave it in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.